Hello and welcome to this session. My name is Tom Chelednik. I'm a Vice President for Product Strategy for our Planning and Analysis portfolio. And today we're going to talk about planning smarter with SAP Analytics Cloud. So our agenda is as follows. We'll start off with an introduction and we'll talk about the strategy here at SAP for our enterprise planning portfolio. We'll also give you an overview of SAP Analytics Cloud and really focus in on the enterprise grade planning capabilities. We'll then talk about planning for the future. While using planning with AI, machine learning, and predictive is really a game changer for organizations moving forward. Then we'll touch base on collaborative enterprise planning, how finance is no longer the central and only group that's actually focused on planning, where the involvement of different lines of businesses will be engaged moving forward to ensure accuracy and alignment of operational financial plans. And then last but not least, we'll talk about customer success. We'll talk about some of the customers, the use cases, the scenarios for which customers have adopted SAP Analytics Cloud. So let's get started. So recent survey through FP&A Trends shows that many organizations are still struggling with planning. 43% of organizations, matter of fact, are still taking upwards to 5 days to forecast instead of hours using an enterprise-grade platform. Also, there's too much time being spent on non or low value tasks like data collection and validation due to lack of integration with the internal ERP, CRM, or even HRIS systems. And also collaboration is being done still in many organizations through means of email or meetings using outdated static data that's giving and making it very difficult for business leaders, decision makers to make timely decisions. So because of this, as far as a Gartner survey, CFOs recognize the value of innovation for finance. And matter of fact, at the top of the food chain for technologies to invest in is budgeting, planning, and forecasting. Matter of fact, the secondary to that particular item is performance management and dashboarding, which is inherent capabilities within SAP Analytics Cloud. So there's no denying the cost benefit of deploying a SaaS solution versus an on-premise platform, but many organizations are also choosing cloud over on-premise due to the business flexibility, the business content, including best practices, and the innovation that comes with a SaaS platform. Here at SAP, we actually provide quarterly updates on SAP Analytics Cloud planning, BI, and predictive capabilities that are non-disruptive that our customers can adapt as needed based off their business scenario or requirements. True to our entire analytics portfolio, here at SAP, our strategy for planning and analysis is cloud first. What this means is that our recommendations for anyone moving to S4, on-prem or cloud, or any cloud apps, including SuccessFactors, Ariba, Concur, we're recommending SAP Analytics Cloud. Most, if not all of our enhancements going forward will go into SAP Analytics Cloud as it pertains to planning and analysis. Therefore, there are some customers that still require an on-premise platform, and that's okay. We have BPC and BPC 11 on BW4 is our solution that we would recommend for any on-premise deployments. It is supported until 2027. The innovation to BPC goes through integration with SAP Analytics Cloud. And sometimes people and customers, I should say, need to stay on an on-premise platform due to regulatory requirements, corporate strategy, or the need to customize the solution beyond what a SaaS platform can provide. So let's take an overview. Let's talk about SAP Analytics Cloud and where we are today. So SAP Analytics Cloud is the only modern SaaS platform out there that brings together in one user experience and service, BI, predictive, and planning. On top of that, we provide an application design SDK to do customizations as it pertains to any one of those three different scenarios. We have integration in up to 250 connectors to both SAP and non-SAP data sources, either in the cloud or on-premise. When you look at the breadth of the functionality and features that SAP Analytics Cloud has to offer, It's pretty amazing. We're going to focus quite a bit on the planning and collaboration for what you see in the middle to the right, but we have really enterprise grade BI and predictive capabilities, including some of our augmented analytic capabilities that can be used in planning workflows, which we'll also talk about shortly. But beyond that, I wanted to mention that we do have an analytics hub component that works together with SAP Analytics Cloud, which provides customers a governance and a catalog for which they can store different reports by lines of businesses, by scenarios, etc. And those reports can be from any platform, including Business Objects Enterprise, SAP Analytics Cloud, or even other solutions like Microsoft Excel. We do have mobile capabilities. Matter of fact, we have a responsive layout in SAP Analytics Cloud that allows you to easily render what we call a story, could be a planning grid, could be a graph or a dashboard on your mobile device. And then last but not least, because we know that people still love Excel, and many times for reporting and or data input reasons, Excel is still the tool of choice. We do provide multiple means to either read data from SAP Analytics Cloud and or write data back, including analysis for Office. And most recently, we released a cloud plugin for Office 365 that also allows you to both read and write back into SAP Analytics Cloud. When it comes to planning, our mantra is planning for everyone. As I stated in my intro, planning is no longer centralized to finance. Everybody plans: marketing, operations, sales, IT, and we provide those enterprise-grade planning capabilities sitting within our data centers, and SAP Analytics Cloud sits on top of HANA to allow the largest organizations or just a line of business to plan. Full financial planning capabilities. We'll talk about all the different business scenarios for which SAP Analytics Cloud solves for, but here's just a short kind of just summary of some of those enterprise grade capabilities that we provide with SAP Analytics Cloud. But let's take a deep dive into a few of them that our customers love the most. So it really starts with the modeler. Our modeler, if you can take a look at the bottom right-hand corner, is very much like Excel. You have predefined dimensions with specific properties and capabilities within the solution. But mostly, this solution and the modeling capabilities are meant for a business user. There's the expectation that you would need and require someone from IT to actually set up a model for cost center planning, revenue planning, sales forecasting, workforce planning is not the case. The only time you should require and would potentially require IT within SAP Analytics Cloud is just to set up that initial connection either to your SAP or non-SAP data source. But the modeling itself, setting up the attributes, the business logic itself, the logic that's specific to the account dimension is all being done today by business users. Secondly, the data entry. We have an Excel-like grid that sits on top of the browser that provides you the data entry capabilities to do simulations, to spread data. You can plan at any level. You can plan by an absolute value. You can plan by increasing it or decreasing it by a percentage. We try to make it as simple as possible using this web-based Excel-like grid UI to do planning at any level within your hierarchies. Similar to the data entry, we give you multiple different report template calculations, reporting capabilities, again, in an Excel-like grid but on your browser. What's more important is you'll see some of these selections or multiple selections, these averages or formulas that we provide are very similar to Excel. You can insert a column, insert a row. You can then summarize, multiply, divide just like you would in Excel. Again, if you want to use Excel, we provide that capability, but I would say 95%, if not more, of our customers just love our planning grid that we provide in the browser. And then private versions, so what I found throughout the years, since roughly 1997 when I started in this business 23 years ago, that regardless of the planning platform that a customer would use, many times they would still bring data offline through native Excel to do simulations. Maybe they wanted to see what the impact of bringing on a new headcount would be. What if they increase the units sold or the cost per unit, what that would be. And then they would then bring that data back into that planning platform. So with SAP Analytics Cloud, we solve for that. We call it private versions. So private versions are the means to actually take a slice of data that's up to date and fully integrated with your ERP, again, your CRM or HR system, and do simulations until you feel comfortable. At that point, when you're done with those simulations, you can share it with a colleague if you'd like, or you can publish that to a public version. But it basically prevents the planner, or allows them to not have to take that data offline, where you can worry about it being correct, maybe anomalies in the formula, stuff of this nature. You can use SAC to do those one-off simulations and then publish them to colleagues as necessary. So collaboration is a key part of our solution. You can do this through your mobile device. You can do this by sharing stories for email. You can do this in a messenger, as you can see on the right-hand corner. There's multiple ways to collaborate within the platform. Leaving comments, which will be time-stamped with the date and who actually made those comments at a particular data intersection. But commenting and collaboration is made easy within SAP Analytics Cloud. Okay, let's talk about planning for the future. So analytics together with augmented intelligence is about bringing together human creativity and machine intelligence. So both Gartner and the Hackett Group predicted a major uptick in adoption for predictive analytics in finance by this year to stay competitive and maintain high margins. And we here at SAP have seen this really become a reality. This trend, is identified by major market analysts, and customers more and more are no longer looking at machine learning, AI, predictive as blue sky together with finance. They actually are merging them together, and we have some proof points in just a second to show you how. So predictive planning using historical data provides data-driven forecast, right? This together with human judgment and business acumen helps organizations create a more accurate forecast at an accelerated pace. And so some of that business acumen behind some of that historical data, be that 3 or 5 years, would be, knowing that you plan on launching a new product, let's say in the upcoming year. Maybe you need to hire new employees to launch that product. Or for example, for sales forecasting, as you're going through your quarterly business review and you're reviewing the sales forecast with your account execs, sometimes what you see as the forecast versus what's actually committed is much different. So that's some of the business acumen that will always be needed, but you combine that together with some of the machine learning and predictive analytics that we provide out of the box. It really makes for a big difference and confident planning moving forward. So the key with SAP Analytics Cloud is that our augmented analytics, be that smart discovery, smart insights, or search to insight, do not require a data scientist and are meant for the business user, matter of fact, whether you're in sales, finance, operations. These capabilities can be seamlessly incorporated into a planning workflow to make confident decisions and identify key influencers or outliers, plus quickly get answers using natural query language. So some of the major use cases that we see our customers ask us about and are looking to deploy include expense and cost planning, where maybe you would want to understand if you should transfer budget between areas, revenue and sales planning, and you would ask potentially how will sales evolve with specific products in the future, and then of course headcount planning, where potentially you're looking at attrition or retirement in next year, and what are those profiles of employees that would potentially leave. What's also quite interesting is that we had a beta program for the first half of this year. We had multiple multinational companies from different industries participate in this for our predictive planning capabilities that we just launched and made productive in our data centers and Q3 of this year. Excuse me. So 100% of the group that participated in this beta recommended that we release our predictive planning capabilities. And of that 100%, 50% of the group is now live or will go live in the short term. So at the end, SAP Analytics Cloud allows our customers to plan smarter by analyzing what has happened, predict what could happen, and then plan on what should happen. So let's now talk about collaborative enterprise planning. Collaborative enterprise planning is something that we kind of coined. Is what it means for us is that the ability to be able to crowdsource plans and budgets throughout the organization. Again, not just finance. That means bringing together HR, marketing, operations, and the supply chain or sales and operational team together to make sure that the operational and financial plans are linked, and they're both working towards that strategic plan set by the business leaders of the company. So if we look at this example, let's say you're about to launch a new product. In order to do that, and be productive and do that properly, you're going to need sales to input the sales forecast based on the projected units sold. You're going to need marketing to enter the campaign and advertising costs in order to launch that product. You may potentially need IT to enter any equipment costs related to that launch. What about HR to enter wages or salaries for new employees needed for that launch? And then last but not least, you would need the supply chain team to submit supplier costs and or capacity constraints. So this is a good example of where our technology, SAP Analytics Cloud, supports collaborative enterprise planning and bringing these lines of businesses together to link those financial and operational plans. So let's take a moment to take a look at this demo. It's roughly an 8-minute demo that's going to show you how you can use SAP Analytics Cloud to do both revenue and expense planning.
In the next section, Christoph from Controlling will demonstrate how the latest forecast can be developed. He'll show 2 different approaches to forecasting in SAP Analytics Cloud. First, he'll demonstrate an automated approach using Smart Predict's machine learning capabilities to forecast sales revenues. And then he'll show a manual data collection process for forecasting operating expenses for a specific region, orchestrated using the calendar feature and direct input into planning tables, both in SAP Analytics Cloud and in Excel Online using the SAP Analytics Cloud add-in for Microsoft Office. The forecasting will also incorporate data from SAP S/4HANA.
Hi, I'm Christoph. I work in controlling, and I'm responsible for creating new forecasts to support the planning process. Starting with the revenue forecast, I create a brand new version as a copy of the actuals by right-clicking the actual version directly in the table and selecting Copy Version. I create a new forecast version called Smart Prediction. The system automatically adds the new version to the table. I see that the version is empty from Q2 until the end of the year, the same as my actual version. Next, I go into the Smart Predict feature, which uses machine learning capabilities to automatically create a time series forecast of revenue until the end of the year. On the overview page of a predictive model that was previously created, I see that it has a relatively low MAPE value, which stands for mean absolute percentage error. Essentially, it shows the difference in percentage between the actuals and the model predictions. The lower the MAPE, the better. Here I see several models that were created in the past. Because Smart Predict is intended for business users and doesn't require any programming or deep data science expertise, I'll create a new prediction on my own. Since the feature works on any planning model out of the box, I simply select my demo model, which is called Living Company. I can choose any version of historic data, as well as the most recent actuals. The signal variable is the account or measure I want to forecast. In this case, it's sales revenue. For the time series forecast, I also need to select the date dimension. Finally, I define the segmentation and choose the region and product dimensions. This means that the system will create one time series forecasting model for each region and product combination to achieve the most accurate results by working on the detailed data level. As I want to create a forecast until the end of the year, I choose 9 periods to be created, one for each month. Now that everything is configured, I click Train and the system starts running its predictive algorithms. Once the training is complete, I get a detailed summary of the results. When I take a deeper look at the forecast for one of the products in Italy, I see a very low MAPE value of 3%, which is good. In this chart, I see the predicted results overlaid over the historic actuals, showing what the system would have predicted on the historic known actuals. Ideally, the predicted values in the actuals should be as close as possible. In this example, the prediction and actuals are very close. In the signal analysis, I see the overall trend, which in this case is positive, decoupled from the cycles that might reflect seasonality or outliers. Now that I feel fairly confident in the predictive results, I write it into the Smart Prediction version. Next, I go back to the revenue forecast page and look at the predicted forecast in the table, with a detailed result created across all region and product combinations until the end of the year. The comparison to the previous forecast shows a decline, and I see that the new forecast predicts ending the year below budget. With the revenue forecast concluded, I move on to the expense forecast. For the monthly recurring forecast of operating expenses, I use a calendar process to keep track of the forecast completion from regional controllers, with the status aggregated up along the region hierarchy. The calendar component in SAP Analytics Cloud helps create workflows for various planners and reviewers. In this case, I'm assigned to the region Germany, and a story is attached to the task. The task also carries the filter context for the story. As I open the story, I see that the filter has been applied for Germany. As the forecast is being processed for April, the cutover date is set accordingly, and the remaining months are ready for input in the table. Due to the current situation, I forecast a 40% reduction in electricity expenses for April. I launch the Office 365 Excel add-in to continue working on my forecast in the familiar environment of Excel. The Excel add-in is based on Office 365 and runs in the browser or any Office-supported device, and doesn't require any software installation to be deployed. In the Excel workbook, I have my local calculations for the utility expenses, which I connect to the live data from SAP Analytics Cloud, and then have the local calculation written back into my forecast version. Back to the story, and after refreshing the data, I see the changes to the April electricity and water expenses entered using the Excel add-in. Next, I want to focus on travel expenses, as there's currently a company-wide travel freeze. When I scroll down, I see 2 additional tables, which are showing live data from the S/4HANA system. This table gives me a live comparison of the SAP Analytics Cloud forecast plan with the very detailed travel expense line items from the S/4HANA system. This is done using the live blending feature, which doesn't require any data replication, and provides a view into the transactional system that includes much more detail about the travel expense account than is available in the planning model. Blending of live data with other data sources works with all live connectivity-supported systems, including SAP S/4HANA, SAP BW, and SAP SuccessFactors. Now I see that my forecast in April is 115K above my current actuals. With the travel freeze in place, I decide to simply copy the latest actual value into my April forecast. I see that the blended table is also updated and now shows that the actuals and the plan in April are identical. Now that I'm finished with the forecast numbers, I submit the task.
And welcome back. And I hope you enjoyed that, small demo. And I wanted you also to know that you can find the entire 42-minute demo on saphanajourney.com. Or you potentially could look me up through LinkedIn, and you'll see that I posted a link to that particular demo for collaborative enterprise planning on my LinkedIn page as well. So, hopefully you could see some of the benefits already of collaborative enterprise planning, but let me just call them out. So first and foremost, again, aligning your financial and operational plans across the enterprise for better business outcomes, using confident and consistent modeling and planning processes across the organization. There's so many organizations out there that are just using many siloed and older technologies across the company to plan, which makes it very hard to look at an aggregated view and get consistent planning across the organization. Thirdly, discuss plans in context across all lines of business to increase accountability. That collaboration, again, is key. Respond quickly to market disruptions and actual performance. Remember, SAP Analytics Cloud sits on top of HANA, so scalability as it pertains to concurrency of users in the system and or data volumes is a non-issue. You would have clear visibility into cost and the revenue drivers using a platform like SAP Analytics Cloud. Big data and planning at any level. That's one of the biggest things our customers love, is that you can plan at any level within the hierarchy using SAP Analytics Cloud. And then last but not least, hopefully we hit home that you can plan smarter with SAP Analytics Cloud, because within your planning workflows, you can have augmented financial analysis with artificial intelligence to create a more accurate and timely forecast. So now let's talk about some customer success. Unfortunately, I can't show any logos. You can see those logos and different customers at sap.com, but let me talk in general about how some of our customers have adopted SAP Analytics Cloud and some of the business value and scenarios that they're getting. But first and foremost, let's just make it clear that SAP Analytics Cloud, as it pertains to planning and analysis, solves for mission critical business processes. Many companies, when they think about financial transformation, they start off with engaging with or putting money into a modernized planning and analysis platform. And so with SAP Analytics Cloud, first and foremost, you can do full financial planning. That means P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow. We have customers using it for CapEx planning, for workforce planning, for sales forecasting, cost allocations. You could see the various different forecasting and then management reporting using some of our live capabilities from SAP, core SAP systems is also very important and something that many of our customers are doing. So just to be clear, with SAP Analytics Cloud, as it pertains to reporting only, for planning, right now, you need to ingest the data. But for reporting on specific SAP data sources, you don't even have to move the data from the SAP data source into SAP Analytics Cloud. You can actually leave it there. You can use what's called a live connection, and it will render within our interface to create dashboards, visualizations, things of this nature in order to report on it, which our customers happen to love. So the first, kind of customer I want to talk about is in the food industry, roughly a 17 billion a year in revenue company, 38,000 employees. So they're using SAP Analytics Cloud Planning together with BPC to support their line of business planning and standardizing their FP&A processes, data, and systems. The second company is in the food industry, 3.4 million in annual revenue, 200 employees. They're using SAC planning together with S4 to do driver-based expense planning, replacing Excel. The third company is within the retail industry, 432 billion in revenue, 11,000 employees. So they replace Excel with SAC Planning for P&L planning to reduce data collection time, which in turn increases analysis and advisory capabilities. As stated earlier, too many companies spend way too much time on low value added activities such as data collection and validation. The fourth company is a technology company, 83 billion in annual revenue, 380,000 employees. They've replaced Excel with SAC Planning for sales forecasting and reporting. And the last kind of case study or customer that I wanted to speak of is within the consumer products industry, 2.2 billion in annual revenue, 3,700 employees, and they replaced over 8 systems that they had internally used for planning and analysis, including, of course, Microsoft Excel, with SAC Planning as one integrated platform for planning and reporting. So here's my call to action to you all that have attended this session. And again, I thank you so much for your time today. The first thing is check out our free trial. We just recently released over the past couple months a 90-day free trial with all of the planning capabilities for you to actually play with, take a look at the capabilities, understand how it works, and get familiar with why customers are continue to move to SAP Analytics Cloud Planning. Secondly is check out our guided playlist. Within those guided playlists, you're going to see help files and videos and different things that are going to really help you with that journey as you try out that trial to make sure you fully understand how it's supposed to work and what the intended behavior is. And then last but certainly not least is we have an excellent and global center of excellence focused on finance and planning and analysis. And I would highly advise you to set up a strategic session with them at no cost, just to help them understand where you are today, where you're heading, what are some of your challenges, what are the opportunities, and they can help you and advise you on how SAP Analytics Cloud Planning could really help you transform your business and potentially what the steps would be, the different phases to move from where you are today to SAP Analytics Cloud Planning. So I also wanted to share with you that we have different other learning opportunities based off SAP TechEd. As you can see, it just takes a second to either subscribe or activate your free access to get access to a broad range of different education activities. So I would highly advise you take a moment to go ahead and do that as well. So with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for your time. Thanks very much for attending this session, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your TechEd. Take care.